Good morning. Grandma Great wants to read you the story about Rags. Isn't he a cute little dog? Mr. Columbani really liked dogs, and he wanted one for a pet. But his wife did not like dogs. One morning, Mr. Spindle, who sold fish across the street, ran out of his store, shouting, "Help, I've been robbed." "It wouldn't have happened if I'd had a watchdog," said Mr. Snurd. "Wow, that won't happen to us," said Mr. Collenberg, the grocer. "I'm trying to get going to the pet shop right now to get me a big, fierce watchdog." "You know I don't like dogs," Mrs. Caladanny said with a sigh. She didn't really want a dog. "So, at the pet store, I want the biggest and fiercest dog you've got," he said, that ran the pet shop. "Here's a puppy that will grow up to the biggest, fiercest dog you've ever seen," said the man. He handed Mrs. Calabanny a small, furry bundle to take home in his pocket. But look at all the dogs he had in the pet shop. "So this is the big, fierce watchdog," said Mrs. Calabanny. "He looks like a bundle of rags." And from then on, they called the dog Rags. Mrs. Calabanny watched the puppy and made him a nice warm meal. Then she sewed him a little rag doll and stuffed it with dried beans. The puppy took it in his teeth and shook it, and he really liked that doll. Wasn't that nice of her to make a doll for him to play with? The first night in the store, the little watchdog was afraid of the dark. He cried and cried, but he had his little doll to play with. Rags grew fast. He ate and ate and grew and grew. When he was getting so big and his teeth were getting very sharp, it was a doll who disappeared for even a moment. If he did, the dog would howl, howl, howl. "Some watchdog," said Mrs. Claney. "He's knocking over cans. He grew so big that his tail wagged, and he would knock down stacks of soup cans. He loved everybody. Now that he's so big, when is he going to start being fierce?" "Oh, pretty soon," her husband said. "Do you think he'll get fierce?" "Well, here he is. But look, he'll toughen up when he runs around the neighbors with the other dogs," said Mr. Clowney. But Rags ran away from the first dog he saw. And look at that. It was just a little dog, and he was scared of the little dog. I don't know whether he's going to be a fierce dog or not. What do you think? Rags ran away from cats, too. Even the ones inside the store. He ran away from mice and spiders and Mrs. Clowney's broom. Here he is. He don't like all that stuff. See the mouse, the spider. In fact, Rags felt safer on the floor. He would jump up on the counter with his beanbag doll and curl up beside the cash register. Well, look at Rags guarding the money. What a watchdog. Rags spent most of his time there. Oh well, at least he isn't underfoot. Mean he'd be right underneath their feet. Well, one morning, Mrs. Calibanny was counting up her money they had made that day. So Rags jumped up and knocked all the neat piles of money and coin all over the floor. What a mess. They scrambled about, trying to get all the money back together again. Rags tried his best to help too, but actually he was just in the way. She was really angry, Mrs. Calibanny. Now, he's losing the very money we wanted, and he's supposed to be guarding our money. Oh no. Rags, you're not a good watchdog, but I'm sure gonna miss you. Rags sniffed a bit, but then he took his beanbag doll to the cash register and fell asleep. He looked so sad. He was sorry. Well, Mr. Calibanny went out the back door to empty his garbage. Out there in the night, a robber was waiting. He slipped in the door, and as soon as Mrs. Calibanny turned his back, he tiptoed to the cash register and stole the money. He was not afraid of that dog, who was fast asleep. He'd heard all about Rags. But when the robber tossed the beanbag doll to the floor, Rags woke up and he was furious. He kept at the robber and knocked him down. Then he barked and barked and barked, and Mr. Calibanny came running, and he called the police, help, help. So when the officer came, he ran in the store. Rags was sitting on top of the robber. Good dog, good dog. And it wasn't long till his photograph was in the newspaper. In the newspaper. I told you he'd grow up to be a good dog, said Mr. Calibanny. And Rags wagged his tail happy and shook his beanbag doll. And he did. Isn't that a nice story? Rags looks like a very nice dog. You all have some dogs you like to play with too, don't you? Love you. Take care. Bye-bye.